This is Good Girl Gone Human, an ongoing conversation that serves the frequency of rehumanization. We believe that in striving towards being good and away from being bad, we can lose touch with our humanity and uniqueness. Our hope is that in expanding our capacity to accept our own humanity, we expand the capacity to accept and hold each other's humanity as well.
We welcome uncertainty and questions with curiosity. This is not a roadmap for the right way to be human. We hold tenderly how seductive and human it is to reach for a formula that will provide a sense of certainty and safety. This is not that place, but rather a place for dropping into our big, messy questions.
This isn't just for the recovering good girls out there, but for every human who desires to peel off the layers that hide the wholeness of who they are.
We want to tell the stories of how messy and complicated and beautiful it is to find ourselves in the aftermath of this shedding. There is space for your story, and we want you to join us on this journey of rehumanization.
Hi humans, welcome back to another episode of Good Girl Gone Human. We have Kristina here.
Hello.
Hi. And we're joined by my friend Jes Lock. Hi Jess, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm so excited to be here. I'm very giddy, so I'm bringing some giddy energy with me.
Please do. Be exactly where you're at. Oh, my friend Jess. So Jess and I met at a human design conference, and I'll never forget how we met. We were both in line for the bathroom, and there was just something there was a mutual we need to talk right now and go deep immediately really fast. And it was so beautiful how resonant you felt so familiar. And as we got to know each other over the next few days, our similar humor started to come out, and we just clicked, and I'm just so grateful. And another one of my first experiences with you is at the conference. You gave a talk about human design and the shadow, and meeting our shadows in a very particular way and bringing awareness to them, while also keeping in mind how to sustainably do so with our self-awareness. And so that is what Jess is here to talk with us about today, and whatever else comes out. So before we super dive in, I just want to let everyone know that we're not going to get you lost here and speak human design language only. It will be woven in throughout, but we promise we'll take you along. And so excited to have you here, Jess, to just talk about both of our work of how do we humanize ourselves as we shed labels of trying to be so good, and how do we meet our shadow and all the tools we love to use. So yay.
So thank you for being here. I know, and we're where do we start? There's so many things we could just like you said, your resonance, and let's go deep right now real fast. And so we have this giddy energy too, it's going to go there. But my curiosity as a new friend to you is, I know Holly has mentioned, and you mentioned too in your podcast, about working in the corporate world. And so thinking about where you are now and the things that you provide for your community, I want us to rewind a little bit. And can you tell us what it was like for you working in that corporate setting? What was it like in your body? And then what was that process of realizing that wasn't really a good fit anymore?
Thank you for the intro, for laying the groundwork. Corporate was fun when I was in advertising as a graphic designer. So a lot of how I express myself and make sense of the world was through, I guess, reinterpretation or translating the world around me. That was a lot of fun until it wasn't. I felt like I was there for 5 to 10 years if I include university years. And it was a very fast-paced environment. And in my 20s, I loved it. I could keep up with it. I was climbing the corporate ladder. I was accomplishing, paying for my bills. I felt this independence that felt so good. And then it got to a point where I couldn't keep up. And I thought it was because there was something wrong with me. I thought I needed to work harder. but I was working 60, 70 hours a day and even a week. And
Dang, girl.
you know,
Corporate hustle.
I know that's how efficient I was with my time. But I was so drained and I became this person that was a little bit grumpy, but on the outside, people didn't notice it as much. But on the inside, I was just, something is wrong and I'm not feeling good. And my body was showing physical symptoms of just being out of balance. And I remember taking a health coaching certification because, like, oh, food, you can heal yourself for food. So I was doing all the green juices, all the meditation, and moving my body, but still, it was not balancing itself until I fell down the stairs after like shooting. We were like back to back shoots and I had to edit. It was like a very small agency that was growing too fast, so we were expected to fill many roles. And people pleaser me. Of course I can do it. Of course. Until I couldn't. And I kind of told my bosses like I am very exhausted. I don't know what to do. And I remember crying. And the office was an open office, open space with glass windows and doors, so the entire office could see me talking to my bosses and crying. And they're like, "What's wrong with Jess?" And I'm like, "I can't do it." And all they said, and bless them, like they're so sweet humans, but they didn't have like the best emotional intelligence to hold me through. It was like two male bosses that just looked at me like, "Do you want to go home today?" And I'm like, that doesn't change the fact that I am scheduled for literally 30 hours of work in a day. And I told them, in an 8-hour workday, how am I supposed to fit that? And they're like, well, you'll figure it out. So I was feeling like I didn't know how to use my voice. I didn't have the sass that I have now. So all that led to quitting because I knew my body couldn't do it. And even the quitting was very scary because I have worked 10, 15 years for this career. I fought for this career. I had to convince my parents that graphic design was a suitable career. And for me to walk out at the peak of it felt like I was abandoning those dreams, but it also felt like I was getting closer to myself.
Wow. I don't think I knew like all the details of that story and how much bravery that took to leave and then to feel completely unseen in like this really horrible physical, mental, emotional experience you were having. That's really intense.
What happened next? Like, okay, you quit. And then like, I mean, that was so brave. And your body probably, that was like, I'm curious what your response was in your body after quitting. Because that doesn't just, you wake up the next day, okay, all my stress is gone because I don't have this job anymore. Right. So what was the next season like?
Exactly that. It took a few months to quit. It wasn't like I prepped. I make sure I save a lot. I signed up for an online business class as I was still working. So I needed the foundation. I needed some sort of safety, even though I didn't know how it looked like. The biggest or the scariest thing was to telling my parents that I'm quitting with nothing lined up. And I was so surprised because my mom's reaction was, I'm glad you're doing that. You're still young and you don't have kids. You're not married. If it is time to take risks, this is the time. Wow. It took me completely by surprise because I had spent my entire university years, my entire working time to convincing them that this is the right thing, like so much energy improving. And to tell them that I'm not doing this anymore. And for her to respond, it was like, oh, okay, I can soften. But then the proving still came with me because that was so ingrained in me that I quit and I had space to be. My body didn't know how to react. So I was still in burnout mode. So I was trying to do all the things that was good for me. And my point of view was like, if I can spend 18 hours, 13 hours in a day working for someone's business, of course I can do that for my own life to figure out, maybe I can be a coach, maybe I can do freelance. And I channel all that energy into my own business, and that also burnt me out. And that was like, what the heck?
You like transferred the burnout.
Yes, in my own environment, in my own control. So that was another like, what? I don't understand. I thought the place was at fault. And obviously I knew I wasn't stepping into my boundaries, but now it was such an unraveling of, I think it took me 2 to 3 years to recover from burnout because I kept fighting it. I kept being busy and learning now the language of my nervous system associated with not being busy as a state of danger because I wasn't accomplishing anything.
Wow.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's really profound too. Like there's so many people who are just like, I can't rest. I don't feel good when I rest. And so to tie those two together, I don't actually feel safe when I'm resting. What a big realization.
Yeah. So that process is like 2 to 3 years. So what was like the turning point? Like how did you come to realize what you needed?
What I needed? I was able to get a lot of support from acupuncture, osteopath. I went deep into healing, like a lot of us when we go through something kind of traumatic and burnout. I pour myself into that. And I think it was before the pandemic, maybe like a year before, where I realized I'm doing all the things and nothing is really working. Like business felt really hard. I was giving all this free coaching, all the free packages. Nothing was really happening. I would get recognition here and there, but it just felt really hard. So I decided to play and let's do the bare minimum. What is the bare minimum I need to do to pay my bills? And I had a few graphic design freelance, so I was doing that. I'm like, great, but it wasn't filling me. There was this part that I want to work with people, I want to coach, and at the same time, again, years later, I realized there was so much fear of taking up space that wasn't allowing me to step into that identity, that persona that I know is so me because of all the conditioned fears and all the proving that I had to do. So through doing the bare minimum and seeing, oh, somehow that is attracting opportunities to me. It was really weird. I would go walk at the lake and just read, and then I would get, oh, do you want to do a workshop here? Oh, do you want to show us about a day in your life and we'll put it in the social media account? I'm like,
Wow.
like, what's happening? Like, I'm not pushing and it's coming to me. It was very confusing to kind of, for my logical brain to be like, there is still momentum in ease and softness in honoring myself. That was like, what? I can take care of myself and things also work out as a ripple effect.
Wow. Life-changing realization that you could take care of yourself. That's so beautiful. So it's your human design guide now and teacher, and like I mentioned, that shadow work webinar. So like, where did that come into this journey?
I don't know, actually. I think it was a part of meeting my own shadows. Right around the pandemic, I was seeing a naturopath and my skin was just still flaring up. And I remember her telling me, you're stressed. And I'm like, ugh, this is the story of my life. Ever since I was a little girl, I would be ill. I would go to the doctor with my parents. Every single doctor I met was, you're too stressed. During university years, I didn't get my period for like a year. You're too stressed. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't feel stressed, but you tell me stress doesn't give me the tools to like I didn't feel stressed. I'm like a naturally calm person. And she said, you might not feel it because you're used to it. And also your body is feeling it. Your body is feeling it for you. I'm like, okay, fine. And then I started going to therapy. And then we started talking about, the things that I realized I had pushed down and not allow myself to feel. And we started digging more into it. And then it was almost like here's little Jes who had so many fears, had so many big feelings that she wasn't allowed to feel and take space. So I started allowing myself to, sitting with myself and feel this is uncomfortable, this is vulnerable. And the more I did it, the more I cried, the more I felt, because it almost opened the valve for my feelings to take space again, like all the uncomfortable feelings.
That makes me think too of like the word, it's a human designy word, but you guys can expand on it, is that conditioning too. Like we're conditioned to like push down our feelings sometimes, and not feel them. And so I know a big part of your work too is that like deconditioning language. So can you talk a little bit about those two things, either in a human design way or just life way? What does conditioning mean? And then how do we, because that sounds like a process sort of like deconditioning yourself from my understanding of it. But can you kind of talk about those two words a little bit?
Yeah. I feel like conditioning can be applied even outside of non-human design modalities because it's basically the influence of the people around you, the transits around you, things that you've learned. And when we're children, we're like a little sponge. We
Mm-hmm.
absorb everything. And there's so much of my story that is tied also to my culture, to my parents' history, where we come from as immigrants, Chinese immigrants, moving to Peru, and like all the different wounds and shadows that come from that. But
Mm.
conditioning is basically, yeah, information that is around us that we take in, and it becomes either our truth or things that we associate or not with. And in human design, it's basically, yeah, that kind of influence. And the conditioning can be it's neutral, it's not good or bad, it's what we do with that conditioning. So in human design, when you have an open center undefined, you're basically taking in, you're eating, you're consuming all that conditioning. If we're not aware of how that impacts us, like if it takes us away from our truth or if it brings us closer, then we're kind of moving on autopilot. The
Mhm.
conditioning of emotions. I have an undefined solar plexus, which is this little center for feelings. That means that I amplify the emotions around me, and whatever I'm feeling can get dialed up. So as a kid, I remember feeling big feelings, and nobody knew how to help me manage them or how to
Mm.
regulate now that we have the term. And they just told me, like, don't feel that.
Yeah.
So helpful.
I would not be able to sleep, right?
Yeah.
As a kid, like 2, 3 years old, I'm like, I can't sleep. I'm afraid of death. I'm afraid of my
Mm.
parents dying. I'm afraid of that. And then my mom, like, I know she was trying to help me. She's like, your dad doesn't like to talk about death, so don't feel that.
Oh,
And it's just
just
like,
stop. Yeah.
Don't feel that.
yeah,
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
Good
So of
night.
course you're like gonna try to shut that down and
Yeah.
not have tools to push that through. And so the language you use now even helps you understand little Jess of like, oh, she's amplifying a ton of stuff and like needed tender help. And I
oh
love that
yeah.
you drew our attention to that conditioning isn't good or bad. It just is like information and bringing awareness to, whoa, I've taken in all of this information, all of this data. Like, I shouldn't like openly talk about fear of death, like whatever it is. And it becomes our truth if we don't bring awareness to it. Not that it's bad, but when we're talking about the shadow, even sometimes like shadow work, you think like dark, you think the bad stuff. Like we're about to uncover like some just like really bad parts of ourselves. So I'm wondering if you could talk a bit about how you think about the shadow. I know I've heard you speak about um, that there's a lot of gifts in becoming aware of our shadow, and you use human design to kind of map that out. Could you take us through like how you think about that?
Thank you for grounding that because I can go all over the place sometimes.
Yes,
But
same.
yes, part of the shadows, part of like my inner work has been being a coach, understanding myself and how certain choices can have an effect on my well-being. I went to the extreme of being very almost rigid, first through the lens of health coaching, then maybe yoga. And that's why I'm really grateful to find human design later on. But when I was doing all the health coaching, understanding all the food and how it supports me, I was just obsessed with clean eating. I was very aware of calories. I was so like I was trying to control that part because I thought that would make me feel better. And part of that now I see was a shadow of like a fear of losing control. And
Mm.
that doesn't come from a bad place. It comes from us wanting personal safety. So as I do my work around shadows, I realize every shadow we have, just like Inside Out, right? Every emotion
I
has a
love that
purpose.
movie.
Hmm.
It's like such a nice visual way to see even the shadows are not things that we should reject because I was like, let's reject it. Let's not feel the bad feelings. Let's not feel the shame or the guilt.
Mm.
But then if I don't feel it, I don't access what's underneath it, which is a lot of gifts that want to take up space, but are too afraid to because we're not listening, the fears that our gifts might have as well. Just like me wanting to coach people, but I was terrified of not speaking proper English or not being
Mm.
too polished, that it was easier to take action that was behind the scenes work. I would have a perfect website, I would have a perfect sequence, but never show up and tell people I coached them because the idea of being a coach made me shrink. So shadows, there is information underneath the shadows. Shadows are not bad things. They're not like, a disease. They're us that is just needing some, I need some care. I need some love. That's how I've seen them and tend to them. And I find it's been so helpful even for my clients and for myself, because otherwise our inner self-critic can be really mean if we leave it to their own devices.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I'm hearing that like it takes a lot of courage to meet those places. I'm curious, like it sounds like a big chunk of your conditioning was like I have to find the successful route. And if someone like my parents or anyone thinks that's not going to be successful enough, I have to like prove it, and I have to like be polished. And like you mentioned, worrying about your English, like how I'm curious, like just your personal process of how did you muster up the courage, or did it just happen? Was it inevitable to meet those shadows? Because it seems like that conditioning of shove it down, polish. Was it the burnout or that like pushed you into it, or were you ready for it?
Deep one. It's funny. There's a few times that you both mentioned courage, and I'm like, it didn't feel like courage. Like when you're in it, it felt like survival. Like, this is my truth. If I don't do it, then what is the point of existing? I know it sounds dramatic, but
I relate.
There was just no other way. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It felt like because I kept hitting a wall that sometimes was my own doing, a wall that was built by society. And I love that you also brought that part, the proving, because I do, in human design terms, have a defined heart. And this is a center for will, it's a center for ego, and this is the will to work. It has this motor. And I do, if I'm passionate about something, I can work really, really hard. But this center, every single center, either defined, open, when you look at your chart that is colored in or not, can be conditioned. It's just more susceptible in the open areas because you're taking in constantly. But in the areas that you have consistent, you can also be conditioned. And I was using my ego in ways that was, I think, heavily masculine in the world of corporate industry, where a lot of dominant white male voices were leading, and a lot of people of color were doing the hard work and we're not getting the raises. And I'm not trying to bring that into it, but just noticing the difference of that and how the male energy of the ego was conditioning me so hard that I didn't know, I wasn't capable of receiving. I wasn't capable of working with my ego, because sometimes this work is either ego is bad. You don't want your ego to take up space. I'm like, ego is a part of us, as you can tell from how I view our energies. There is a healthy ego energy to really go through what we want to, but honoring ourselves as opposed to at the cost of abandoning ourselves. Did I answer? I don't even
You
remember.
did. You like answered and gave us some beautiful nuggets now I'm chewing on. Yeah, like you said, it didn't feel like courage. It felt like survival. And that makes a lot of sense, and like just that brave turning towards. I relate with you in that like it feels like it was like, not to all be dramatic now, like life or death. I actually have to go in and meet the shadow, and like it felt like there wasn't a choice, and it didn't feel like courage to me either. I'm so glad you said that, because I was just like throwing courage at you, like you're so brave, and it actually feels like pretty terrible. And I'm also thinking about your like where you came from was like work hard to get to these like healed places, like even the food as medicine and the health coaching and stuff. I'm curious how, as your journey progressed and you were being courageous, but in this like in retrospect, right? You're like, that was brave, but it was life or death. Like I heard you say on a recent podcast that sometimes we can use self-awareness as a weapon. And that just like struck me as, you know, now it's feeling really good. Like, oh, I didn't know where to go from here now. And now I can meet my shadow. Like, ooh, now let me like fully immerse myself in how I can nitpick the living daylight out of every part of me. So I'm hoping you could talk about like that tension of we do need to meet our shadow sometimes. It is survival, and how much is too much from your lived experience.
I love that. I can feel my body is like, I have so much to say. Hopefully, I stay on track because what I've noticed being in the wellness industry for over 8, 10 years is that it happens, right? Where first we get validation, and it can be whatever modality you use, Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, astrology, where, oh my gosh, like I understand now why I'm the way I am or why these things feel really difficult. We feel seen. And it lays such a beautiful, baseline for groundwork. But then because our beautiful minds want to gain control, wants to be strategic, wants to make sure we don't get hurt again, it becomes such an obsessive, another box that we shrink ourselves into. And then we start using that information in not the most loving way. We use it as a way to shrink ourselves as opposed to be closer to ourselves. Just the example of like projectors should wait for the invitations in human design terms. So if you're failing, it's because you dare to start something without an invitation. I get so angry. Like I'm shaking when I hear that because it just becomes another ruling, another box, because we're human beings. Like we're not, yes, these are labels. It's giving us a language to understand ourselves, but why shrink, like our humanity cannot be measured by anything.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm thinking about when I first got into the Enneagram, you mentioned that, and like felt so seen, felt so understood. My ex-husband and I were just like, okay, this language is so beautiful. It's so important. And then the more you work with it, you kind of start to like I think you should like ease your grip on it a little bit. And then you'd meet people and they'd be like, well, I'm just like that because I'm a 1 on the Enneagram. Like I'm a 1, so I'm just kind of judgy and like always trying to make things better. And you kind of start to go like, okay, it is. I love that language of like, it's another box to shrink yourself into instead of like maybe a mirror or like more like a crystal with all these different faces and you can like turn it and it has all these different things to show you. I think a lot of people do want to shrink back into a box because it does feel like safety. But that was a really beautiful picture for me to like think about we love a good personality assessment. Give me all the like Myers-Briggs and all the things because we want to feel seen and like we want our experience to make sense. We talk about trying to make meaning out of things, of course, but the idea of not letting it be a box you slip into. Yeah, what do you do next with that? I love like if you're discovering that you are using some sort of self-awareness as a weapon against yourself or even others, what can we do next? Like, what did you do with that information?
I think first was noticing that I was giving my power away without, like, it didn't feel that I was giving my power. I feel like I was taking reins. Yeah. But no, we're giving our power away in search for certainty, in search of, there's always this discomfort. Why are we looking for the answers there? It's because we're afraid. We're afraid of what if we follow our heart and things don't work out? There was also this time that I was like, getting very angry because I was getting served human design apps about compatibility. And the reason it made me angry was because it say, oh, you're a generator or you're a projector, you have these centers, so you're going to be a match. And that takes our discernment away, and it also takes our own power away because you can be a perfect match on paper, but in person, if like there are alarms glaring at you, whatever the term is, you should not ignore those. That's what I'm like, okay, have you been giving your power away? What are you searching for? And remember that like that inner guide, you can't go wrong. Because this system, so many of these modalities gives us like a right way or wrong way to do things, then suddenly we feel like there's a wrong way that we can live our life, which is not the case. Wow. What if you don't follow your intuition? Okay, hopefully it's not a life or death scenario, but you learn from it. Right. And then like we're calibrating, we're always adapting. Like if we were able to live, quote unquote, like follow our inner guidance without all these languages, why should this additional layer of information make us second guess ourselves just because we know more, we think we can control more?
Joe, that's it. Just because we know more we think we can control more.
That's a mic drop, Jess. Because you even were earlier saying that like control, I actually can't remember exactly how you phrased it, but that's what you were grasping for, is this feeling, the sense of control. So it makes sense that we'd be floating along and find new tools to make us feel in control. And so, and how much sense does it make? Like, I'm just feeling the sweetness of like why we wanted you on the podcast, because there's such a resonance of, you're speaking to, our language is humanizing. Oh, we lost your camera. Okay, we're back after a little technical difficulty, but I was speaking to like the resonance between everything you're saying in our work, and just I'm feeling this excitement in my body right now, because what you're speaking to is humanizing. And my personal journey is, though different in circumstance, really similar, where I was shedding all of these ways that were handed to me, you know, like you described that as like conditioning, and realizing they were never me, and like all the grief and the process that was, and then finding new tools and like finding that, oh, I can heal. And then now I put this standard of healing like way above, like up on a pedestal. Like if I could just achieve that. And the through line is control. I don't want to set down my own beliefs fully because I feel out of control. And so let me pick up some new ones, like that healing on a pedestal. That's been a lot of my journey, and I think a lot of like what you and I found resonance about, like at the conference. Like we're both into human design. I loved all the shadow work you were talking about and how you use human design with that. And that's not the place we have to like keep ourselves like perfectly in tune with our chart and always be looking for our shadow. There's like an ease to, if we don't sometimes put that down and just like accept the humanity, we're going to harm ourselves, and like our language is like dehumanize ourselves.
Oh my God. I also wanted to add one of the many reasons I love your podcast is because yes, you remind us that the humanness, like being human isn't just fixing, or because we can get into that fixing because we know the tools, we know what went wrong, so we want to fix.
Yeah.
And it's so exhausting to be in that state all the time, to be like poking at our wounds and shadows. If it comes up, that means it needs to be addressed, because we can't address all of the things that is quote unquote not working in our lives right now. When we make space for joy, for ourselves to, be goofy, to watch that silly movie, even if it's not going to accomplish anything, we actually build capacity and resilience within ourselves. That's when we're not trying.
Beautiful.
So that's what I found, that it's like, embracing our humanness and not trying to do the work is actually a lot of times more powerful than, sitting and like, I'm going to journal about my thoughts. Like I haven't journaled for a while. I journal when I have capacity, when I'm feeling pulled, and also trusting that my body that has taken me for like 35 years of my life, supported me, is always guiding me on what to address next if we have to address it. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So it's sounding like you're holding that tension of this work. I need to do this. I need to, when my body guides me to, there's a mirror for me to look into here to see my shadow, to willingly embrace it, but in a more sustainable way. And I would love to hear you kind of unpack for us a little bit more of what you're saying, because I'm remembering in your webinar about the openness in your human design chart and the gifts of the shadow, you did talk about your unique process you've mapped out in the world of doing this in a sustainable way. I think you called it the Pillars of Sustainable Deconditioning. Would you like take us through like that process a bit?
Yeah, of course. Let's see if I can remember it right now.
Whatever wants to come out too. Like no pressure to
be perfect.
Yeah.
I think I do remember it. I just have to ground back into it. Thank you for bringing it back to
It's not a test though.
It's not a test. It's funny how like when there is anything that needs to be tested, my body gets like really rigid because I'm like, I need to do it properly. Why? I think it's just, again, the pressure. So I remember to soften. And something that is very important for me is to be able to, for the people that I work with or anybody that comes into the work, is that things happen little by little. And for it to be sustainable, we can't be sprinting and trying to fix and poke all the time. We need to create stability within ourselves. We need to create safety. And that's the most important part. And that's one of, the driving themes around like the 5 pillars to sustainable deconditioning. The first one is creating space. Before we go into like fixing or reactive mode, how can we create space to be like, I'm noticing all of these things are happening. I'm panicking. This is scary. Or like, I think I'm going to lose everything. I think I'm going to get lost. I'm never going to find myself. Whatever story it is, can we take a step back and be like, yes, I'm feeling that. Can I take some deep breaths so I can at least ground to my body? And then when we create the space to notice what's going on inside of us, we get a little bit more of clarity because suddenly we're not the energies, we're not the feelings, we're not the stories that are ruminating and spiraling. It creates a little bit of distance so we can notice and sensitize to what we're holding because we're so busy. There's so much noise outside. There's so much rush. I'm always like headless chicken Jess running around is common. So I need to bring her back and be like, okay, you feel all this pressure and anxiety, but maybe you can take a deep breath because one of the things that we do as well when I was in my corporate, I noticed I wasn't breathing. I was holding my breath because I was just so tight. Like design, like the logo is too small. This was due yesterday. If you don't publish it, people will die from not drinking cola. That was the scenario.
The people need their cola.
Right? They need their artificial sugar. And I was like, this is what I'm killing myself for. So even the space can sometimes help us add some humor, soften and be like, okay, this is everything that's happening. And from that space, you get to discern, what do I actually have capacity to deal with right now? Am I, an incident that happened a few nights ago, I woke up at like 3:30 in the morning and I went to the washroom, I came back and my brain was spiraling and I felt this kind of pit of anxiety. And I was like, woof, okay. First of all, 3:30 in the morning is not the time to try to work through my mindset right now. If it's related to, future, whatever it is, I'm like, it's okay. I know I've made some decisions that might feel very nervous for my, being. So I'm just like, okay, some deep breaths. What do I feel like doing? I'm gonna read something fun or like romance or whatever. I'm just gonna read. And that helped. And then the next day I was able to, go for a walk and really work with myself instead of trying to fix it at 3:30 in the morning where I was drowsy and sleepy. Like what capacity did I possibly have to be able to sort through that? Have you found that when you're in those moments of like,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
Absolutely. And how often we just go like, well, it's on my mind right now, so I should lean in. The space you're talking about, the breath to say, just because it's on my mind right now doesn't mean I have to go there is really, that discernment is a really big piece.
Yeah, and that helps because then creating space can happen at any time during the day. Like you're waiting for the elevator, you're waiting for something to load. Okay, is your shoulders like this? Because mine is often. I'm like, why am I so tight? I was like, oh, right. I can just soften my shoulder. If we're stuck in traffic, oh, maybe I can tune into my breath. So it's really simple. If we can just create little practices where tune into ourselves. Let's do like a quick check-in. Like, is my shoulder up? Am I sitting weird? Do I need to drink some water? Because I've had clients come to me saying like, this is happening X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, I get it. And then I ask like, have you had water or breakfast all day? And they're like, oh my gosh, I haven't. Maybe that's why I'm feeling more stressed. Which also feeds to it.
Yeah, forgetting that like we have a body, and it actually is important to care for that body. Yeah.
Because I forget.
Yes, I do too. I'm even like, I feel like I needed to I asked the question in this mode of like podcast host. This is like something I was really excited to hear you talk about. Let's do it. Then as you were describing it, I was like, what is my body doing right now? And I came into the room like a teeny bit more. Not that I was like out there, but I'm just struck by the like power and simplicity of like, one, sometimes we just need a witness. Sometimes I can like criticize myself. We're just talking, we're just relating. Why are you so like high strung? It's like, actually, we have cameras pointed at our faces and microphones. Like, it's okay that this is a little bit like my body's like da 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 da. So it was cool to like in real time as we're talking about these experience. I had like, I think my first deep breath in the last 30 minutes as you were talking about that example. So, thank you.
I'm glad. I also want to show people that it's really easy to connect to ourselves. Because again, I used to be in the extreme of if I can't fit an hour workout, then I'm not going to do it. Now it's like if I can jump for 10 seconds, 20 seconds and, shake it, get into my body, that is better than not doing anything. I used to be at the extreme of all or nothing. So
Yeah.
simple practices are actually more sustainable. Creating space, taking a breath. So
Do you think that because there was a time in your story where like that burnout and that autopilot you said, it's like it wasn't accessible at that, the simplicity of what we're unpacking now like wasn't accessible. Do you think it's important to like get to that point of being willing to meet your shadow? Like for this to even be possible? I guess I'm still holding that tension of just be human. You don't have to work so hard to excavate and like, go deep and whatever. And it's like, well, that came before this simplicity. Like, I'm curious your thoughts on that.
I love that question so much because it leads to the next point, which is energetic baseline. So our baseline helps us determine the best approach to care for ourselves right now and move in a way that is supportive and conducive to healing deconditioning. So we created space, amazing. Maybe we've identified the top 3 things that, I'm feeling right now. What is your baseline? Because our baseline is different. Now I'm at a space where I don't need to be very obsessive or careful around what I eat, how I eat it, because I am in tune in my body. I am a lot more connected. But my baseline when I was in the corporate world, I think before, the breath would have created a little bit of space, but my mind was still very like busy. The next approach from that would have been maybe, do some workout or talk to someone to release that energy. But now my baseline is different. So I've created a space and now I know what does my body need? What is my body holding in the past couple of weeks with all the transits that we've been feeling and the family thing? So I know what is the most important care. If I know my baseline, I know how to care for myself right now.
Right now, the most important care. Because it's like you said, we can't, if we start just picking at all our wounds, we're actually creating like more things that need care all at once. So you said like as things come up, as I like feel that, so that baseline, that's a really beautiful way to put it. What needs the most care right now? Yeah. It's a really sweet question to ask yourself.
Yeah, so gentle.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I always like when we really have the space to see that it's like, I haven't had breakfast. I usually move my body and I haven't done it. Or it also allows us to look at ourselves with a little bit more compassion, other than the poking lens of like perfectionism and all the things that's laundry list of things to do. And our lives are not meant to be lived that way. We're not things to fix, things to accomplish, or things to improve. While we can get into those spaces sometimes, we're so much more like hugging your loved one can feel so nourishing when we're completely present.
The mics are picking up our nice big breath. We just take, yes, yes. I'm like, okay, tell me another one. I'm like on the edge of my seat.
What's next?
Not to push you along. I'm just like...
Now that we know our baseline, capacity check-in, because our capacity is always changing. So maybe this week, this month, or this season in your life, especially I have a friend that just became a new parent. Of course, his capacity going to be so much different,
Yeah.
as you both know as parents.
Yes.
So what is your current capacity? What are you dealing with your day to day? Because that allows our mind to, again, see it in a very logical way and be like, yeah, you are working more than before. So what do you have capacity for? Does your body need tending? Do you need some, I don't know, cuddle time? Like, are you lacking connection? Like, what is in your daily energetic bank? What drains you and what energizes you? What nourishes you? I think sometimes making it really, really simple can help us know how to replenish.
That's so countercultural. And I love that you bring up parenthood, because I think if I had that language, I had a lot of postpartum, well, undiagnosed postpartum depression, but just this, I thought my capacity should stay the same. And so I wonder if somebody had given me that tool of a capacity check-in, like, of course you can't function at the same level. You're caring for an entire like human life and your own, barely, and trying to whatever, all the things. And so I'm struck again by the simplicity and the power of just, what is my capacity? I was in a season of my life, I think I'm more aware of that now. Probably we both are as we've done some of this work, but becoming a parent is just a really great example. Like, of course my capacity is lower. What can I or should I take off my plate? What does it make sense to maybe let like be in a different way? Or like you said, what are my needs? Am I lacking a little bit of like, do I need a giant squeeze hug? You know, I can be a little sensory seeking. Do I need to go under my weighted blanket and just like breathe? I didn't have those tools, 8 years ago. And I wonder how different our journey would have been, but it's just not what I had at the time. But I can look back and think capacity check-in, like what a simple, powerful tool to look at that. I love the word to use, energetic bag. What's in my energetic bag today? I'm just reflecting back to it because I was like, wow, that would have been such a gift to me in that season of my life. And so I'm grateful that your friend has you too, just, in their corner to share some of these things. I think it's important.
I admire parents so much. I have so many friends that are parents, and hopefully I get to be parent in the future. But it's because the amount of energy it takes to raise a little human being, especially for mothers who had to carry and create a human being in their bodies, and their bodies are adapting and changing, and the expectation that the world has on mothers is just brute. It's impossible.
It's insanity.
Sometimes I think like I'm taking care of myself as an adult and I'm struggling.
Yeah.
What do you expect mothers to do when they haven't slept?
Yeah.
Because this little being is demanding all of them. So anyways, that I just admire
It's
parents
beautiful
a lot
to
and mothers
be
and what you move
reminded.
through.
It's crazy how easy it is to forget, like, because I think society does kind of say, well, I'm just going to use our language like a broken record. Like, well, mother, you dehumanize yourself for the sake of this other human flourishing. And you do that as long as it takes. Bye. Like, good luck. And it's like, it's brutal. And so I'm really struck by like the simplicity of witnessing though. Like, like you said, I didn't have this tool myself. It's like, I think as parents, we need, like you're saying, you can do for your friend, like someone to say, hey, did you drink water today? Like, did you care for yourself? Did you remember that you actually have like a huge wound from giving birth and that you're like recovering from like, anyway, all this like beautiful like community work too, whereas sometimes that can be the antidote to using self-awareness as a weapon. Not like, I should have known my capacity. I should have this. Like sometimes, like we need that softness to come towards us and ask these gentle questions and invite gentleness, especially as we're covering good girls. We're not always really gentle in ourselves. And
No.
that seems like that's what I'm kind of giggling, realizing I didn't really say some of the roles that you hold on the front of the call because I was so excited to tell people that we're friends and how we met. But you are a human design guide. You actually, like you and I have connected on how we don't put human design on a pedestal as this is the way you will solve all your burnout, like meet all your shadows. But it's a brilliant tool, but within that tool, what you're offering people is actually that deep witnessing. Whereas sometimes we don't realize our capacity and remember that we have a body attached to the monkey mind that's going and going. And so I don't know if there's like, I think that there might be one more pillar. And then also like, if you could share that, and then also talk about like your role as a guide and like how you uniquely help people with this.
I feel like you've described it better than me. There's kind of two more pillars. The last one, okay. Not the fourth one, is rituals and practices. So for something to become like muscle memory, like checking in with ourselves, capacity, because all of these pillars are supposed to be, they become rituals and practices. So you don't think about it as much as obsessively, like a recipe that you first try and you're reading the ingredients over and over again, and you're reading what is the order, how do I do it? And then afterwards it becomes easy. You add your own flavor to it. So what rituals and practices can you create to integrate that awareness? Because we've got awareness, amazing. We've got a place to put it. Our mind is busy and happy, it's got something to do. And rituals help us come home to ourselves. It helps us to tune into our inner compass in the midst of, again, all the busyness, and it can help us anchor into our body in the now. So having a series of that, is it starting your day a certain way, have a toolbox, because we might tap into different rituals depending on different parts of our lives. There are seasons where, even as women who menstruate, like with a cycle, there are seasons where I want some high intensity workout. And then there's seasons where 5-10 minute walk, oh, okay, that's enough. So again, have rituals and practices, but let that be your toolbox so that you can move that energy, and also your brain feels like it's doing something, because our brain just wants to protect us.
But you're honoring your capacity, not my ritual is a high intensity workout. It's like, my capacity today is a 5-minute walk, and then yay, check little brain that's trying to protect me.
The ritual is movement, and then the way that plays out is capacity oriented. Or whatever it is in your toolbox. Breath work, meditation, mindfulness. That's great.
A lot of people, when I talk to them, that's why I have certain dance. That's why I do that. And I love that, because I'm like, see, you're already doing the thing that you're supporting yourself. Because sometimes people come into this work of like, I'm lost, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. But the more we talk, I'm like, there you go, you're doing the things. But it's easy to dismiss it. That is not enough.
We like to beat ourselves up. Sorry.
The last one, last but not least, is play. It's so simple, but I had to include it because play, that's how we get out of our own way. That's how we can work with our minds and bodies. If you watch children from a non-creepy way, you just observe how they play, how they grow and learn. It's not in a rigid, like 5-step plan. They just play. So remember to play and have fun. Like, did this work? Oops, see, it didn't. Did I follow my strategy? I didn't. Is it the end of the world? No. What can I do to, to come back to myself? Is it a piece of chocolate? Is that what I need? It can be simple to tell yourself.
I love that. That's one of the pillars, because play is like one of the high values of my life. I like really prioritize
You're really good at it.
Yeah, I think
I've been taking notes from her.
It's part of why I think I was a great like preschool teacher and kindergarten teacher, is just like, I think I still have a little child like wonder left in me, but I make a lot of space for it. It could look like dancing or painting or just like singing weird by myself. I just like really value play, and I really do value play in community. So I love that you're like, I'm taking notes, like I'm going to some like bounce house thing tomorrow. It's like world's biggest bounce house. And I was like, I think I have to get myself a wristband. Like they're like, the adults don't need one, but if you're going to go on the slides, you should get one. And I was like, know thyself, like buy the wristband for yourself, because you're gonna like, if I'm sitting, here's the thing with play, if I'm sitting on the sidelines of this bounce house experience, I'm probably going to have a terrible time because it's loud, it's overstimulating, there's people everywhere. I'm wondering if my kids are okay. You're a little bit more like in this analyzing brain. When I'm also going down the slides, you can like tap into what the kids are doing, which is they're like bumping into each other and have no spatial awareness because they're in their own experience. And you're just like, oh, when you're on the outside of it, you're going, ooh, you're micromanaging. When you're in it with them in that play state, you can really like just tap into like, oh, it doesn't matter that we bumped into each other going down the slide because we're just going down the slide. So anyway, that's my tangent about play. I love that it's one of your pillars. I think as deeply serious, very intentional people that Holly and I both are.
It's like you're pointing at me right now.
Serious? And myself. I depth and delight, you know? I mean, we can be so serious. We can think of our humanity as a problem to be fixed, and play is such a beautiful antidote that is hard for people. And so it's not just like, oh, go out and play. You know, I think a lot of parents, even when their kids want to play with them, they're like, I don't like play because I feel like I'm getting it wrong, or I can't like tap in fully. So it's not easy. I wouldn't say play is easy for all of us, but I do think it's so important. So I just got lit up being like, yes, I love that because pillar is even like a serious word. And I have my own pillars of the year every year. And it's like, but I love that. A pillar.
Bouncy house pillar.
Go on the world's largest bouncy house if it comes to your town.
It's very serious.
Or maybe not. I'll report back. I don't know. Maybe it'll be insane. But
also, the bouncy house is such a beautiful metaphor for our human experience because we're all just playing, bouncing, and we're bumping into each other. But does it matter? Like, we're here to have fun. If we're from the outside and watching people bounce and have fun and achieving their dreams, it can feel like, oh, we're not doing it properly. You know,
There's
how do we
something
bounce?
wrong with
And
me.
we're not living because we're thinking about how to bounce in a bouncy house, but not in the experience. Anyway, it just made me think of that. So thank you.
I am
Kristina.
so glad
Beautiful.
you went metaphor because my brain was already there. And so I was like, oh, I love it. You brought that home for me.
That's beautiful. So the second part of, now that we've kind of touched on all 5 pillars, the second part of Holly's question was like, how are you relating with people? What does your work with people look like right now?
It looks like very similar. So I even had a workshop after the conference, and we were there for like 2.5 hours. And people were like, we talked about our shadows, but it wasn't bad. Like we can, I'm not saying like have fun, make fun of your shadow, but like we can do this work in a way that it's not draining us. We can have it in conversation and community. And, you know, shadow work doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be the thing that you do, but sometimes meeting the parts of us that we're very afraid of can be very, rewarding is not the way, can feel like coming home. Even like hugging that part of us that's like, you are feeling guilty, you're feeling shamed, you're feeling inadequate, and there's nothing wrong with you. What's underneath that we can go together? So this work gets to be profound and nourishing. It doesn't have to drain you.
I love that. Like that's been definitely my experience. Like the words shadow work are kind of like daunting, but it actually, there's this feeling of not creating wholeness, but like this like remembering that we were whole the whole time. I was just trying to put this, whatever I'm labeling as like selfish or, sometimes I even shame my low capacity because, people are going to think I'm not, like that people pleaser shadow or whatever. But to just like, I'm already whole, even with all of these nerves and all of this shadow. To do that together in a group, that's really beautiful. Like you got to spend hours and hours together doing that and it didn't feel heavy. It's really cool.
Yeah, even hearing you explain it, I'm like, it's just like the shoulders, or you say you can notice our shoulders go up, and just like, this is a theme that keeps coming up, but like deep witnessing and slow relating and just partnering with somebody, not to like hold up mirrors to be like, look at yourself, look at this shadow, and like, what are we going to do next? And what do you want to tackle first? There's this there's this ease in someone saying like, you're not a problem, and like your shadows aren't a problem. Well, now those parts of me, we could talk about parts work too. I hear a lot of that language being really paralleled here, but there's a part of me that can soften and go like, okay, maybe it's safe to look at the shadow if I don't think somebody's going to sit there and wonder what my plan is to make it go away. And so I bet it's such a gift. I mean, I'm loving relating with you in this way, and I can see how your personality and all of this depth of knowledge that you hold, how seamlessly you can integrate that into somebody's work. I'm like, oh yeah, I can see it all. And the big thing the theme through this that's really standing out to me with your work is that word sustainability. And you use the word seasons, like the women's circles I do are seasonal based. And we've talked before about just like this metronome that it gives you to follow. Like we're not always in spring and summer. Sometimes it's that internal winter or that internal autumn. And so I hear a lot of that in what you're bringing too. Like to be sustainable is to remember that we're part of nature too. And we get to like flow in this way and not expect ourselves to be all summer, go, go, go all the time. And so I'm just connecting with that a lot as you're giving me new language to think about those seasons in terms of my capacity and also, the tools that I already have, the rhythm, because rhythm and ritual and practices are so important to me too. But you're like, everything just feels softer and more attainable or something, There's like a real sweetness to it.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful for what you've brought today. It's so beautiful.
Oh, like mic drop.
Yeah.
Summed it up beautifully.
No, totally. As we are kind of like wrapping up here, you perfectly teed me up to ask like, well, first I'll share. Jes has a podcast. We'll link all these things. So look in the show notes, but she has a podcast. It is a place where she shares vulnerably. She has guests on and she does look at their charts. She does like talk about human design, but it feels to me more expansive than that. It's called Whole and Unleashed. And you also are a human design guide, which kind of encapsulates a lot of things. You could do a chart reading. You could do like this type of coaching that you kind of like heard in real time here. And then you also started something called Human Design Fundamentals. So you can learn from Jes. So you teach, you write a lot about different aspects of human design. So we'll put the links of where to find Jes. There's all sorts of resources if you feel drawn to her energy. And as we are wrapping up, can you tell like a little bit about what to expect if somebody's feeling drawn to your energy? If they wanted to work with you in human design in their shadow, what could they expect?
Thank you for organizing. Sometimes when people ask me what I do,
that's a big fat question.
That.
Yeah.
Thank you for summarizing it for me.
For sure.
It depends. So Human Design Fundamentals has become like this little community of people that there's a video library of all things human design if they're interested into it. And we are meeting weekly to talk about different themes and topics up until June. We had someone new join recently in the middle of the program. I'm hoping to continue this like into monthly events for anybody who sign up to just meet and to check in so that it's not like a time bomb of like, you need to figure it all, learn about all this.
Right.
It doesn't feel very supportive because different things click. We also do one-on-one work. Some people get enough support by reading the blog posts or the podcast. So I trust that people know what they need, take what they need right now. And I want to make sure that everything that I'm sharing, have some sort of value, but not from a like, provide value in content, but more like I'm writing from the heart. If it's useful, amazing, and know that the purpose of all the work is to come home to ourselves. And that is honoring, like, do you want to do this work long term? Do you want to have me as your guide? Because it's fine if you don't, but it's, honoring that. Don't be pressured by the outside shoulds. Follow that. And I think I'm not sure if I answered what you said.
That was such a beautiful, because like they can go to the website and figure out how to actually sign up. But I felt like you really spoke from your heart there of like, you're open and anyone that is drawn to you, trust them with them, but you're there to guide, but you're not going to take their power. Am I putting words in your mouth, or does that feel true?
That's the intent. Thank
Yes.
you. Can you be with me in every call? Like, yes, Holly will
Can I
come
be your
around.
like hype person? Like, I would love that. I'm down.
Holly just pops in the screen. She's like, let me tell you what Jess
tell
can
you.
offer. I love it. Well, thank you, Jess. Thank you for saying yes to this invitation. And I'm so excited that our people get to experience the beauty from the work that you've done, and just this arc from like corporate working girl to like slow relating and sitting in the hard things with such sweetness. Like, that arc is really beautiful. And so we are so grateful for this conversation, and just I'm grateful for my new friendship with you. It feels like a little intro to our friendship. But as we like wrap up, we always end our episodes with our little reminder to ourselves mostly and our guests and our audience. But I do want to I'm saying this to you, thinking about that arc of who you are, who you've been, who you're becoming. I just want to remind you, Jess, that you are an absolute badass and the most fragile thing. Treat yourself as both. Thanks for coming
Thank
today.
you, Jess. This was a gift.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate both your presence and groundedness. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.